Hi, y'all. Welcome to our YouTube. We're just going to do a repeat of this event of our Registration Resources 101 in a shortened version in case your advising appointments are coming up, or if you just want to know tips and tricks about your registration. So just for a brief introduction, my name is Catherine Yambao. I'm going to be a sophomore majoring in finance and minoring in sociology.
Hi, y'all. My name is Maddie Kila. I'm a neuroscience major with minors in biology and creative writing. I'm a rising junior. I'll pass it on to Diana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana Lopez Guevara. I'm an English and political science double major and a minoring in urban education, and I'm going to be a rising second year. Okay, so to jump in, we want to talk a little bit about core requirements, which hopefully you all have already heard about, or you might more commonly know as general ed classes. These are courses that every student at Santa Clara has to take, regardless of what major or school you're in. SCU basically divides these courses into two specific categories. We have the foundation courses, which are mainly going to be the courses that you're going to be interacting with in your first year of college. And these courses will dive into topics that will help that transition from high school towards college and the topics that SCU cares about. And then we have the exploration courses, which sort of are a deeper dive into those foundational courses. And they do a little bit more of a deep dive into topics, and you can select which ones pique your interest the most. As first years, you will have been registered for one core requirement course, and that will most likely be your critical thinking and writing course, culture and ideas, or religion and theology and culture 1. And we'll show how to access these pre-registration courses later in the presentation.
So yes, just going off of what Diana talked about, maybe you don't know what exactly a core requirement is and you don't know what exactly is ethics. This link will be linked in the description box of this YouTube, and you get to see kind of a blurb of what, let's say, for example, critical thinking and writing, or what ethics is at Santa Clara. Also, the second link is what I find most important. It'll show a checklist depending on your major for the school. And this might change over the years, but this is what it is for right now. If you click on this link, which will also be in the description, you'll get to see the different schools. So Levy School of Business, School of Engineering, and College of Arts and Sciences. And from there, you could find your major and download the PDF. And I suggest this because this will show all the classes that you need. So as your 4 years go on at Santa Clara, you could type, for example, that you did CTW, or critical thinking and writing, fall of 2022, or whatever year that you are completing it. And this will be really helpful as you go on.
All right, so the first resource we are going to show y'all is Course Avail, which is a resource you can use to create potential schedules and see what classes are available for each quarter before your registration period. However, this is not where you register for classes. It's more of a planning resource. This is a place where you can build potential class schedules, check the availability of seats within classes, and view what classes are available for your course. I gave y'all a key to follow. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is MWF, and Tuesday, Thursday classes is listed as TR. Course Avail is found on the My SCU portal, and it's tabbed right under Ecampus. Once you log in, you can click on the Advanced tab on the search bar to find a list of filters, but I will primarily be focusing on undergraduate cores because that's what y'all will most likely need now as first years. Once you click on undergraduate core, it gives you a drop-down menu of every core, as seen here on the right. And there's also a list of filters that y'all can use. For example, the subject you're interested in, any instructors, any cores, the minimum or maximum of units that you want to take, as well as times and meeting times. And I will give a demo on RTC 1, or Religion, Theology, and Cultures 1. And once you click on this, the core shows up on the top, and every available class is listed alongside the number of spots available. And once you click on the class, it'll bring you to the course description page, where it shows you seats remaining, professor, location, time, and most importantly, the map. As you can see here, I clicked on the Kenna Hall 308, and it gives me this little map on the right here, as well as a little pinpoint to where the actual building is. It also tells you right here, whether it's a Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, the credits, links to the required textbooks, and what core it fulfills, as well as a detailed course description, which has descriptions for almost everything. And this is also going to be where it'll show you any prerequisites that are required, but that's more for later down the line. And like that, you've added your first class to your schedule. Yay! So this is again a place where you can build potential schedules and make sure to utilize that add plus button to create multiple schedules in case that classes fill or a certain class does not fit your time schedule anymore. And it's very important to note that exceeding 19 units is considered overloading. Please see your advisor for more information on this. And this applies to anyone who wants to take more classes or their schedule requires them to take more classes. So again, see your advisor for more information. And this is what a schedule may look like. These are two different schedules I made for y'all in the time that I had available. And this was also during a time where I had all these classes that were available to me. And it is very important to remember these codes and add it to your cart on Ecampus, which I will let y'all know in the next slide. Again, it is very important to know what these codes are that are seen on the left side of the screen. And here you need to record your class number somewhere accessible from Avail, and then transfer them onto Ecampus as seen below right here. And I made two little pathways for y'all on numbers 2 and 3, where you have to go to Ecampus from Avail to SCU Manage Classes tab. Then you can select your term. And once you select your term, it shows up right here for a little search bar. And this is where you add these codes and enter, and then your class shows up in your cart. Diana will go over that later, but for now, I'll pass it on to Catherine.
All right, so I'm going to tell y'all about course evaluations, and just to let you all know is that the order that we're showing you these resources is really important because that's the order that most likely you'll be following when you're registering for classes. So first you'll go to Course Avail and see what teachers you maybe want to take, and then maybe feel like, oh, well, like, do I really want to take this teacher, or how is this course? That's when course evaluations comes really helpful. So Maddie's going to walk us through a live demonstration of maybe how to see how a professor is and their teaching style. So Maddie will click the link in the chat, and you'll be able to get this link through your SCU portal. It'll be a black box as soon as you sign up that will say course evaluations, and that's how you'll find it. So let's say, for example, I want to know RSOC 7, who is taught by Professor Daniel. Maddie or yourself would just write that into the search bar, and you would just click search. And then here are all the classes that Professor Daniel teaches, but as you can see, the third one is RSOC 7. So I'm going to have Maddie click on that South and Southeast Asian religion. And this is what shows up. So the good thing about course evaluations is that there's a generally high response rate. So as you can see at the top, 71% of the students in this class at the specific time did reply. So that's really, really good, especially because everyone is motivated, or everyone is advised to fill out these course evaluations at the end of each quarter. So although this first page of the PDF can look really confusing, what's important to note is that the same comments that are on the left side of the screen also show up on the third side of the PDF. So if Maddie goes to the third slide, you can see that these are the same exact prompts that were in the first PDF. So as you can see, number 2 is still the instructor organized his course effectively. And as you can see, the average response that students gave or rated this professor was about a 4. So what I recommend is always use the averages, which are on the second column, to figure out if you really want to pick this professor or not. But personally, what I find most helpful is on the second side of the PDF. You can actually see how many hours students spend taking or doing their homework outside of class. So as you can see, for the average student, it takes them about 4 to 5 hours outside of class time to do their homework for a whole given week, averaging about an hour per day, which is not too bad. But I just wanted to let y'all know that it really depends on what class, what course, and what professor you have. For example, for STEM people, it isn't, it most likely those courses might take a longer period of time, especially with everything going on. So if you see them in the 8 to 10 hour range, don't be alarmed. it is pretty normal as long as you make sure that you're not taking all your courses in the higher number of hours, then I think you will be fine. I say just have a balance, because overworking yourself is never good. So if we go back onto the slides. Yes, so the next one, this is just me re-explaining what I had Maddie in do also. So we can go one more. And yes, just for final overview, I would use the mean or the average to help guide your decision. And also the one thing about course evaluations is sadly there's no comment section. So you're not able to see specific comments that students had to say about a professor or the class overall. So you only have the third page and the second and the first page to really go off of. And my personal tip is to know your strengths and see if your professor compliments them. That's because some people might be better at math or some people might be better at reading. So the hours might not be reflective of how you personally do homework. And this goes vice versa. You could either take longer or shorter period of time. So I say know your strengths and see if your professor compliments them. And then from there, you could choose your schedule.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about our last resource, which hopefully y'all are a little bit familiar with, since this is the resource that has been used to get some of the important information, such as your SCU email. And this is Ecampus, which, like the last two resources, can be accessed through my SCU portal. It will be one of the first tiles that should show up. And then once you click on that and you put in all of your information in terms of login, you will see this display on the right side image, which will show different tiles. But first things first, in the tasks tile, make sure that you all have already read and accepted the online agreement. Otherwise, you will not be able to enroll for classes. Your registration is put on hold until this agreement is completed. So make sure you all are completing that. You don't want to show up to your enrollment session and not have completed all of this, have all of your schedule ready, and then just not be able to register. So please make sure that you all are completing this prior to your advising appointment. Next slide, please. All right. So now moving on to the academics tab, in which you will be able to check your pre-registered course, your weekly schedule once you have already enrolled for all of your classes, and also the AP credits to see which AP scores have transferred and have satisfied some of the SU requirements in terms of classes. So if we go to the top right image, you will see a little drop down menu. If you click at the little top tab, which says my weekly schedule, you will get this little chart, which will give you different terms. Hopefully you only have one available, which will be fall 2022. In case you have others, just make sure you're clicking on fall 2022, which is the classes that you're hoping to register for. Once you click on that, it will give you the image on the bottom left side, and it will show you which courses you have been pre-registered for, which again, hopefully will just be one, and it will either be CTW, CNI, or an RTC course, and it will let you know who the instructor is, where the class is, the title of the class, the unit numbers, and so on and so forth. After your advising appointment, you could follow the same steps and you would get your weekly schedule from that, which will be shown in the image to your bottom right corner. And that would be what a sample schedule would look like. And again, it will just provide all of the same information. It will just be a little bit more classes. And then if we could go to the next slide. Okay. In the academics tab, like I mentioned, you can also check your AP credits. So if you look at that little drop-down menu, you will not click on the My Weekly Schedule, but instead you will click on the one at the bottom, which is circled on the image on the top right corner, which says View Transfer Credit Report. Once you click on that, it will give you the chart, which is shown in the image at the bottom, and it will tell you which AP classes have satisfied which SCU courses. And that's a way that you can check and see whether there are any classes that you still need to take, whether there are any classes that have already been satisfied, which will make you feel a little bit more prepared for your advising session. Next slide, please. Okay, now how to actually register for classes. So for this step, you will want to click the SCU Manage Classes tile, which is right above the academics tile, which we were talking about earlier. Once you click on that, it will have you select a term again, which in this case would be fall 2022. After you've selected that term, it's going to ask that you enter a class code or number, which were the ones that Maddie was talking about earlier. So after you enter that, you want to select the course of your choice. So you want to first verify that it is actually the course you want to take. Second, that all the information is correct, whether that's time of classes, whether that's professor, whether that's number of units. And then you want to verify whether the class is actually open or closed. If the class is open, it will usually show a green check mark. If the class has a waiting list, it will show a yellow triangle. And if the class is closed, it will show a blue square. So you want to make sure that the classes that you're registering for are open. And then if it's open, you can add it to your shopping cart and have it ready there. And then you can continue the steps and finish enrollment. A big side note though, you won't actually be able to register for classes, nor should you try to until your time of your advising appointment, which is when your registration period will open. So then you will be able to complete all of the steps and successfully register for classes. On the bottom right corner, I have attached a little image which has very specific features that I would like to highlight. One of them is where you enter your class number, of which Maddie had talked about a little bit earlier. Then we have the key for the enrolled, closed, and waiting list status for classes. So you want to pay a lot of attention to that. You don't want to be registering for a class that's already closed. And then at the top, we have the add, drop, and swap features, which are really important. So the add is if you want to enroll in a class, the drop is if you just want to remove a class, and the swap is if you want to replace an existing class in your schedule for a new one. And pro tip, when you're trying to remove a class and enroll in a new one, I would suggest when you can always use the swap feature. This way you are eliminating the risk of losing your spot on a current class. You don't want to drop a class, try to get into a new one only to find out that there are no spots left. So just a heads up for that. And with that, I will pass it back to Catherine, who's going to show us the sample schedule.
So this is a sample schedule that I had during my fall quarter as a business major. So yes, as you can see, I did take 4 classes. And what you can see is that after you finish registering for classes, when your time is up, you can see at the top, it shows like 2 bubbles on the right hand. I believe it says weekly calendar view. And that's the bubble you want to click in order to get your schedule to look like this. And what I would recommend from there is to take a picture of it on your phone and favorite it into your photos on your camera roll, because when you're like going to the first week of classes or when you're making new friends at Santa Clara, it's always nice to know when your classes overlap with other friends, and it's an easy way to pull it up. So I would like to point your attention to is that the little warning sign that shows in between my Phil 11A class and my Econ 1 class. Do not be alarmed, nothing went wrong. It's just telling you that you have 10 minutes to get from Phil 11 in Kenna Hall to Lucas Hall. And I'm not really sure why it shows up on there, but not on the slot before, even though it's the same distance. But don't be alarmed, you didn't do anything wrong. Most professors are okay if you communicate saying, I might be a little late because they have 10 minutes and I'm on the 3rd floor for both of the buildings. Don't worry, your professors are really understanding with that. And I say just let them know in advance. Yes, and the one thing that this does not show is your teacher's or your professor's name. So make sure that you do know that. It will show on the other view, but on the weekly calendar view, unfortunately, it does not say who your professor is. And it also doesn't show how far the buildings are from each other. So like I said, mostly you'll be good, but if you really want to know, I would just say map it on Google Maps and you can find out the distance, but you'll be fine because our campus is pretty small.
And with that, me, Catherine, and Diana wanted to give y'all our tips and tricks that we've accumulated over our time here at SCU. The first being pick professors, not times. There may be a time where you have to take a class at 8 a.m. because there is a professor you would really want to take, and that's okay. All of our classes at SCU are doable, so y'all will be okay. If possible, save the easiest, quote unquote, easiest classes for spring quarter. Spring quarter is a time where students may experience burnout or just general fatigue. So I would save classes that you personally think will be easier for you to accomplish towards the end at spring quarter, because our academic schedule goes from fall, winter, spring. And then try to not take 3 classes per day if possible. Ease yourself in. It is very easy to look at the Wednesday, Friday classes and then choose all 4 on your Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But keep in mind eating periods, because unfortunately, at college, you do not have a set lunchtime or a breakfast time or dinner time, so you have to fit those into your schedule. And this also ties into my next point, which is being mindful of when your lab times are if you are a STEM student, because there are some lab times that cut into dinner time or do cut into lunchtime. So just be mindful of when they are, and then put down like eating times throughout the day. You can even put them on your Google Calendar if that helps you. And then have a good mix between your major and core requirements in terms of your classes. It's easier to have a good mix rather than have it very STEM heavy or very core heavy. It's good to have a good balance. And then, for example, another thing that we wanted to tell y'all is everyone has their own path. My path is different from Catherine's path. Catherine's path is different from Diana's path. So in reality, all of us are incomparable. We have our own different paths. We may intersect, but we are not the same. And then, as I said before, create different schedules on Course Avail just in case. And most likely the professor will tell you if the textbook is necessary on the first day when you're going to get your little syllabus, because there may be times where the textbook is required or it's not required. It's totally up to the professor. I would email them beforehand if you are very nervous, but if you're just in the regular group, you'll be fine. And then in doubt, check with your advisors. Your advisors have a wealth of knowledge, and they are there to support you.
Yes, now getting into our little closing, do follow our socials, because especially for this upcoming year, which is coming up actually, you could follow our socials, SCOL_diaries. That's where we post Q&As, and they'll be up for the remainder of the summer and maybe the year. You can also follow our TikToks and YouTube, because those videos should not be going down. That's where you're on right now. So hi, YouTube. Okay, and then our personal Instagrams are still there. If you are registering for classes for this upcoming year, 22 to 2023, feel free to reach out to us with our experiences. And even if you're watching this a couple years in advance and we're still to declare, yeah, feel free to reach out. We're here for you. And with that being said, I will stop the recording right now. So thank you all for tuning in.